using on the city cell phones? Is it all the same? Is that like Verizon or?
Yeah.
Verify.
Yeah. Thinking maybe getting a city phone.
Nowhere.
Ready to go? Okay, let's bring the city council workshop for June 4th, 2024 to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Carter,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Swatman,
Present.
Councilmember Baldwin, Councilmember Davis,
Present.
Councilmember Fullerton,
Here.
Councilmember Hebler, Councilmember McClemens,
Here.
and Councilmember Roach.
Make a motion to excuse Councilmember Hebler from this evening's council meeting. She's out of state.
And Councilmember Baldwin texted us just a little bit ago to let us know that she was going to be missing.
Oh, also?
Well,
So we'll add that two council members onto that motion for excuse.
second.
Second.
All in favor of excusing, was it all? Councilmember Baldwin, Councilmember Hubler.
Mr. Roach is online.
Oh, he's there. Okay, perfect. Say aye.
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 Those opposed? Very good.
Any one of us gets tired, we're in trouble.
Okay, we have two presentations tonight, and apparently I will be presenting the first item, which is the Bonney Lake Junior Council. This, just so everyone's aware, this program has not been discussed and vetted with staff except for the city clerk's office. It would need funding and it would need city staff and resources. The clerk's office says they would need an additional staff member to work this whole thing, but I think there's other things they could do as well. If they had another staff member, including adding more passports and all that kind of stuff. Other things they would do besides that. So the junior council, thank you. I got this first one here. I'm turning it on here. Okay. There we go. All right. So what is it? Essentially, we've seen this work at other cities where you have a council members from different schools, high schools, junior highs, both public and private, get together to provide information to the council as a whole for items that are concerning to youth, essentially. So I think Enumclaw has one. There's several mentioned in your packet that have them. I'm going to go kind of by the seat of my pants here real quick on it, but there's a bunch of junior councils around. They took a look at different items, and if there's items that we think, hey, I would want the youth vote on this, or I want them to be like, what is their view on these items, is something that could be sent to the junior council. They also participate in creating things as far as goals and visions for what their thing would be. And let's see, who can apply to sit on the council, and we kind of covered that. Like I said, I'm moving quick.
This be an elected position? Wouldn't it be like similar, like elected by the student body?
Yeah, it would be more of an appointed position. And I've talked to the principal at Bonney Lake High School, Mr. Clark. He has several people he would be willing to recommend, essentially. And I think we would do that with all the schools, contact principals or whatnot, teachers, leaders that would recommend students for this type of involvement, and give them some kind of civic education, essentially, as well, because they don't really get civics in schools anymore. So they have several people in mind, or at least Mr. Clark does. It doesn't sound like we would have a difficult time getting people from other schools either.
Would we just do like our school district, like Sumner Bonney Lake School District, and maybe get
I think-
Would we do 8th grade as well as?
So depending on how big we would want to make it, that would be a discussion for council, but I think you could do White River School District, because that's in Bonney Lake, Sumner School District, Derringer School District, and then there's some private schools around it as well. So we do like maybe 1 or 2 at-large essential positions as well.
Don't forget homeschoolers.
And homeschoolers, I think that would fit in there, but yeah, I agree.
I'd like to make sure that we find a way to make sure there's at least one homeschooler.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it says attending elected officials, conferences and special events.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's a Washington State link or something. I think the Washington State Legislature has some kind of a book or something that they entertain the youth councils with. I don't know exactly what it is. I know the National League of Cities is an example of they have a link into, youth councils, which is of course the AWC's parent or something like that, part of that League of City stuff.
Right.
And I think Auburn, Auburn is the one I kind of looked at a little bit on this to do a little bit of research. They did previously send one of their delegations to, National League of Cities. Whether or not we're that big and all that kind of stuff, or overly complicated. So there's an example. So
Yeah. And I think we can work with other junior councils around for a regional deal as well. So I think there's opportunities there. It kind of depends on, the engagement and what they want to do and that kind of thing. But I think we can have some things that we can bounce off them essentially. And then they get the opportunity to provide, that youth perspective to the city.
What would the budget item be?
As far as like an amount in that, I don't know.
I mean, like, where would the funding come from? Like general fund or?
That would be basically it would be a decision card in the budget coming
Okay.
forward. Any other questions?
that's probably the hardest part about it, right, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just whatever, you wanted to work out with your staff or what have you, what you thought the resources were on the staffing side to bring that back, obviously, in the form of some kind of a proposal so that the full council can consider what the options were there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're obviously just getting into that whole
Mhm.
cycle or whatnot. And I think in the next couple months, we'll really be going over it hard as far as actual numbers and what those things look like. This was something I wanted to bring before the council several months ago, actually.
Yep.
But because of delays and things, we're doing it here. Just so that the council understands what it is, so that when we do bring forward a decision card, then it's just hopefully a look at like, what does this cost and is this something we're willing to do?
Yeah, I thought this was fundamentally a positive approach to creating some community involvement. I kind of wanted to spin it a little sideways and combine it with the Commission for Community Engagement, because they both require extra staff is the way I kind of saw that. And then really kind of focus on community communication, because the thing that we could do better, and I'd really love to see the city do better, is communicate effectively. I think a youth communication network would be amazing. I know the school district is very effective at messaging because that network is already in existence, right? Because they communicate at school and around so I was looking at both these together and I thought, well, is there any appetite to try to say, or have the staff person like, somehow, concentrating on those activities, right? With like, because I really would like to see, I would think if the communication increases, like the Arts Commission, maybe a little better attended or supported, or if you change to like a community communication and project commission run by, populated and run by,
Yep.
junior I don't know. I started trying to figure out how to phrase it. And I thought
Yeah,
I'd wait and have that discussion with you guys.
Yeah,
right, yeah, yeah. I can
Think-
see a lot of promise with that too, with the community engagement piece, because that's what I've heard from multiple council members in different places is how do we communicate to the public? How do we effectively get information out there? So I agree. I see a lot of promise in that piece there, more so than even if the community, the student council drops out of the effort of the community, the commission for a community engagement. And once that gets rolling and stuff, if that's what everybody wants to do, then to me, the council would be an outgrowth of that possibly. If I was gonna have to choose, if I'm choosing resources or whatever, I'm much more trying to get information out there like to the youth or what have you, how do they communicate? What is their expectations? That seems to provide a lot of value to get what they, how do they get information? I don't, we know as adults how we get information, but how are the kids getting it, right?
that's definitely different, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It is different and it's effective,
Right.
right? I mean, most of us, there are those of us who used a newspaper daily, right?
So I know, that's
Which
great.
does not exist anymore, a useful one anyway, right? So
I know.
it's like, what do we do as a city? And what do people look at as a city? So I thought, oh, wow, maybe this is like there's some synergy that we can build here to try to get the communication plus get youth excited about doing things and build some of that community involvement back up with, that we're seeing with like the Arts Commission.
and obviously that leads into the next deal of the community engagement deal, which I think, in my view, is what the council wants. Like you said, is the more the community engagement, and I could be, they could take on projects that are still arts commission type things, but it could also encompass more things, being a community engagement. And so my thought would be, depending if in the future, if staff wants or if council wants to do this and they provide staff or whatnot to do it, then yeah, they would probably do both those things and work on both those things. And give direction, hopefully some direction to the junior council, and the junior council can direct that. And same thing with the community engagement thing. And you can have youth on the community engagement committee as well. I think that would be really valuable
Absolutely.
to have.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to add, because I really am in support of this idea. I think it's great to engage the youth in our local governance, which is lacking. We need more of that, and then also to give this students and younger generation a voice in our city. But they could sit on a committee similar to we do, and one of them could be that community engagement committee. So as we position the junior council, then to be able to take on a little bit more responsibility that they would like to, like you're saying, Mayor, put some of them can sit on that council too, and then that way they have a voice on the community engagement council. They'll have a link with the council members who's ever working with them directly, so that will give them two avenues to have their voices heard. So I think that's really important.
Thank you. Yeah. And I would hope that, both staff and council would take a mentoring role with them, but both, to help them learn, but also to learn from them.
Would they be invited to council or also like community development committee? And
Yeah, I would think they would be invited to as much as they can do. Obviously, they're going to have different schedules than, say, what we do, but I would say they would be invited to everything that they can probably attend. So kind of breeze through that. We kind of,
And so, Mayor, I have one more quick
please, yeah.
regarding that is, when would we have some idea what the budget would look like to put a program like this together?
It's probably going to be a couple more months, is my guess, before it comes into decision cards.
So we'd be looking at starting this the upcoming school year.
Yeah, my hope would be, this is something that we're presenting for the next budget, so it would essentially start next year. I don't know if it would start next school year necessarily, because that starts before the next budget year, but probably for the next year. Any other discussion on that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please, Councilmember
Oh,
Roach.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to comment too. I think, I mean, I've always been very supportive of youth and getting them involved early, which is, something that I was able to do when I was young too, is get involved. So I'm very supportive of that. I'm wondering, when we look to since we don't know on the financial side, have we thought about talking to the White River? I forgot the other one. I don't know if it was Derringer or Sumner, but the other school districts, potentially the other cities as well, to partner for the funding so it doesn't fall completely on the city of Bonney Lake. It'd be nice if we had a partnership where we had 4 or 5 or 6 different entities pitching in a little bit, so it's not a huge burden.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That has not happened yet. In fact, like I said, it hasn't even really gone through staff yet other than the city clerk's office, but I think it is a good point
Okay.
to follow up on. Yeah. Any other discussion? Okay. We'll now move on to our second presentation for the night, and I'll turn over to admin specialist to Debbie McDonald.
Thank you. Sadie wanted to be here to do this presentation. She's unable to, so I'm doing it. And again, we also want to state on the Commission for Community Engagement that this program has not been discussed and vetted with staff. It will need funding and will need staff resources. City clerk's office has someone interested. Okay, so why change from the Arts Commission to a Community Engagement Commission? We heard from David Wells, from Mr. Wells a couple of weeks ago about their last Arts Commission meeting. They had one person show up. Their quorum is 3. They couldn't even get 3 to attend. They also have an issue with the commissioners not emailing in to say they're not going to be here. So then they go and set up for a meeting thinking they're going to have 3, and then they've wasted staff time and the one commissioner's time that did show up. They have a lot of projects that have just been sitting there. When Mr. Leaf was running the Arts Commission, it kind of seemed like it was spinning a wheel in the mud and it just never went anywhere. Then Mr. Wells took it over. Well, then they had the issue of not having a quorum to get the stuff done or to move projects on. So it would be nice, like I said, to maybe kind of redo the Arts Commission by adding it into the Community Engagement Commission. What the Community Engagement Commission would be working on, this is kind of like a mission statement, to improve the vision of the city of Bonney Lake through community engagement, working together with citizens, businesses, school districts, and the city to create a better future while preserving the past for the city of Bonney Lake. Looking at who would make up the commission, we'd have 2 open applications for anyone, but it would be nice to have at least 1 past Arts Commission member on there. Commissioner Duckman is also teaches at Bonney Lake, so if we could get her, that would cover 2 of the spots to have her on the commission. A business representative or the chamber president, someone from like I said, someone from the school district, a student. I know on Arts Commission they had a student, and for the most part, the students always worked well and showed up, participated, and again, it was a learning experience for them. And then it would be nice to have a former council member, just so they kind of know how council works. And so to get the projects or things done, they would kind of have at least a little insight on how that process works, getting things through council. How the commission would get community engagement and project event ideas. So there'd be 2 ways of doing that: by setting up an email list, maybe calling it Bonney Lake Proud, for volunteers that would like to come and help out at events, attend city events to sign people up for the email chains. They would allow citizens to sign up that are interested in volunteering. They would want the list to include the community resources like schools, churches, scouts, senior living, and even outside the city like Tahale, because obviously they still come to the city and that they can help volunteer. When volunteer opportunities come around, an email would be sent out. Some of the ideas where volunteer projects that they could help with would be some of the Art Commission projects, trash collection at different events like the City of Bonney Lake, or the Bonney Lake Days and tunes at taps. This would at least free up some of the employees that could then go do other stuff if you just had people helping even just with the trash. Help with National Night Out, Parks Appreciation, and Beautify Bonney Lake. Could start a monthly park cleanup instead of waiting for Beautify Bonney Lake, which does an overall for all the parks, once a month, just like with the street collection. You could have kind of like a little polish up a park or trail and rotate them through. Let Your Voice Be Heard would be an email where we could ask questions and get citizen feedback. Because I know this is one thing from council, and I know I've heard it from Councilmember McClemmons where, I've talked to this person, I've talked to that person. Well, here you could just send out an email. The one thing you'd have to work on though is who you want to be able to allow to sign up. You want it citizens only, registered voters only. You want to allow, like children, students, whatever, to also be allowed to let their voice be heard. When asking a question, you at least want a quarterly question to go out. If council doesn't have anything, whether it's, what do you like about Bonney Lake? What events would you like to see in Bonney Lake? We just had a small windstorm, but at larger windstorms, we could send out a thing. Hey, how did things go with the windstorm? Was there a quick cleanup? Did you have any issues with, how the city handled the windstorm? Do you at least want something to keep them engaged throughout the year? With the commission, this is something that I felt was a lost opportunity. We turned 75 this year, and there's so much more that could have been done for the celebration. I would have been on it and I would have taken it to John or whoever, and I just unfortunately had a family emergency myself that I wasn't able to do more. But we could have held a birthday party here at the Justice Center. We could have utilized the Historical Society. They could have had some pictures up and things. We could have utilized the Bonney Lake Culinary Arts. I talked to Mr. Ahina, who runs the program. He said to get 100 cupcakes made, it just would have cost for the ingredients. This would have been a project for the students to create the cupcakes. They could have also been over here to hand them out, and they could have had their own display board of what the Culinary Arts does and everything. Because it's the diamond, it would have been nice, like if we could have had the diamond up on our website, and even with the little saying of celebrating 75 years serving the citizens of Bonney Lake, something like, this is my sad sign, I'm sorry, but a more professional sign could have been done where it's at all of our events. So when the police have an open house, we could have had just like a small sign at the table, up at Tunes at Taps thing, anywhere the city's represented, they could have had that sign so people know. They could have put a quick little brief write-up on how the city became a city, maybe some fun facts on that for people to look at on our website. All city events, something should be could have been like a Tunes for Taps. We're here to we're here celebrating our 75 years serving the city. And this could have been done cheaply. I mean, we're not talking a whole lot of money, a little bit of staff time and stuff involved, but otherwise.
Was it this year?
Mm-hmm.
We could still do that. We still have Tunes at Taps
Yes.
coming up.
It was February 28th, right?
It doesn't have to be the actual birthday. It can be like the whole year celebration.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes. Working with outside agencies to bring in new events. I did check with the Pierce County Disc Golf. They would love to host a tournament here because again, their stuff's portable, so they could easily set up at Allen York Park. They could still use the park behind Fred Meyer's, things like that. You'd have to, of course, figure out parking, but it wouldn't be a high cost to the city, if anything at all. Lionheart Heroes is a local nonprofit organization that goes around working with school districts, working with military, teaching CPR. They would love to do what Las Vegas did, and it was called Las Vegas Has Heart, which would teach citizens CPR and how to use an AED, work with East Pierce Fire and Rescue to teach Stop the Bleed. Now, at an event like this, it doesn't mean they're getting their CPR card, but at least they would have hands-on knowledge of how to do it. Working more with the school district and police to create community outreach projects like emergency preparedness, cyberbullying, cyber sexual predators, and how to set up a neighborhood watch. something I had also thought about was that grandmas, aunts, and uncles, they don't have kids in the school district, so they don't know that, hey, the school district is offering this. They might have a better knowledge that that the city is handling, is presenting this as another option, because, you have your grandkids over. I can't keep up with technology. I know that. So my the grandkid would probably have more advanced with the technology. Some other ideas could be a haunted forest behind Allen York Park, an ice rink in Allen York Park in the winter, because Tacoma does it. And again, we have no clue on the cost or anything like that. A sanctioned barbecue cook-off, a rubber ducky derby out on the lake. One of the things that we do not have here in Bonney Lake is a Veterans Memorial. We have a small triangle with a coming future home of a Veterans Memorial. One of my road trips, driving through, I had to get gas, and I passed this gorgeous Veterans Memorial. The town is 1,771 people, and look at this Veterans Memorial they've installed. This is something that easily can be done in stages. You get your first thing, then you can keep adding. I loved that they had added so many materials. If you look at the bottom where the overhead view, look, it was a nice pasture that it overlooked, and it only had a 2-lane road going by. Something at Accent Park where it overlooks the valley would be gorgeous, but I know parking and all that stuff is a whole different thing. But for the city of Bonney Lake to be this big and to have Buckley and Ording having veterans memorials and we don't, it's just something that needs to be worked on. There used to be a Veterans Memorial Committee, and again, that kind of stalled. And then I think with COVID and stuff just slowed down. Now, I will say that the Saucus, it is a small town, maybe with 6 buildings. One of the buildings is the liquor store, and the city runs the liquor store. So that might be where they got some of their money for it. But otherwise, the pavers were, people sponsored the pavers. There's benches that are also sponsored. They did fundraising, and then, the city also helped with some of the money. Another idea was creating a graffiti wall. This is something that's pretty cheap and easy to do. Giving graffiti or giving artists somewhere to go to, show their art. It wouldn't take a lot of money. You don't necessarily have to have a separate park. You could use one of the existing parks, maybe at the back end of it or something like that. There will also, are we still getting that park, Jason, at the end at the corner of South Prairie and 214th?
Yeah, still in the plan today.
That might be another area. Yeah.
Not.
This would be a simple, this would be a simple maintaining. It's just, covering it up again after so many months with white paint. Again, that's also where your volunteer list could come in and go out and do this so that it's not affecting the city or a city staff having to do that. Funding for the commission, using funding set aside for the Arts Commission, fundraising, sponsorship, and donors. There's 2 examples of some of the donor pages. One is for the Lionheart for kids, Lionheart Heroes, sorry. And then the other one is for Vegas Has Heart and how they do some of their fundraising and giving some options. And then just a summary, the city of Bonney Lake could take the lead on this and show other cities in the area how it's done. Looking at all the other cities around us, I could not find any kind of community engagement commission. I think Ording was the closest that asked for volunteers or asked for people's opinions or had an email list. That was the best I could find. The commission could be a big asset to the city if provided the commission has the right leadership and is given the opportunity to collaborate with outside resources to get projects completed. The leadership thing is a big part because if you don't have the right leadership, it's going to fall down and then it's going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's everything. If you have any questions. Yes.
Councilmember McClymans.
So again, this is awesome, Debbie. Thank you. I think one resource I think we should keep in mind is we have a lot of HOAs. And if we could find a way to network those with the city, and to help them, because they all have some sort of little park. And that's where probably if we integrate the youth better into this, right, the youth that is going to come out of a lot of those HOAs. So I would say maybe make the commission, tip it on its head and make the commission a youth-run commission with 1 or 2 adults. And see how that works, because the youth are going to bring adults naturally, I think, into the mix. So you get them for free almost.
That's why the scouting was a big
Oh, yeah.
point, because especially they're always looking for volunteer projects.
We did talk about, Councilmember McClymonds brought up at a CDC meeting a few months back about making a memorial.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out where possibly it could go. And I believe Jason Sullivan, interim public service director, brought up possibly the community park, or was that, the community garden, where we could maybe have like a central area there? Or was that you, Councilmember McClymonds, that we're talking about that?
I like the Veterans Memorial to be like at the soccer field or at Allen York Park, because because then that's in everybody's face. Right? I mean, I always find it odd, like the police memorial in Washington, D.C., you have to walk all the way to the end of the plaza to get to one of the most significant memorials that is there, right? And it just, you feel like, whoa, this should be like some place where people get to walk by it, because when they do, they go, wow, you understand it. So I would say our Veterans Memorial needs to be in one of our parks already. Put it at the center of the boat trailer parking.
The thing with that is the serenity, because sometimes people go there to reflect, and if you have a soccer game going on, because that was one of the things, again, because the town was so small too, is, you're not going to have a big buildup. So that's where you have that trade-off of, do you want the serenity for people going to there, or do you want it to be seen?
Yeah, that's a trade-off.
What about like a corner of where we're talking about Midtown? We could almost
Well-
build the park around the memorial if we put it out there.
Kind of spoiler alert for what's coming next week. We're doing the presentation, if you look at your futures, on kind of how we're updating Midtown and downtown, really to turn Midtown into a sporting complex and increase the number of ball fields. As part of that, we're also doing a small downtown park to have the community center downtown. And given what we're hearing for a Veterans Memorial, there is a spot being kind of reserved within this new downtown park, which is near the community center, the library, the Justice and Municipal Center, the Public Safety Building, for a Veterans Memorial, in close proximity to the community garden, kind of looking at the area between 90th and 89th, is kind of a future downtown park that would have the community center, a nice big green lawn area, a playground, the splash pad, and then a space for a Veterans Memorial. Doesn't have a design, but just kind of a placeholder where that could be kind of tucked into the site, as trying to get to that serenity level as much as we could. So that's coming next week. You'll see those in bubble diagrams before we move to final design. So kind of spoiler alert, we're moving that direction.
It's also going to be near Veterans Memorial Drive as well.
Yeah.
And you can also see where they're putting trees around it, so those are going to grow up and make it a little more, so that's the thing we could easily do too.
Yeah.
And I do like the idea of maybe having Bonney Lake citizen participation by, purchase a stone, put your family name on it. I know a lot of people like to do that. They're all over Disneyland.
Yeah. They recently just did one in Pacific, actually, on the interurban trail. At each location, there's a memorial for each different war, and then you can purchase bricks essentially for loved ones who were in the battle or whatnot.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to add in, I think this is a great idea, and I think one of the reasons that I'm starting to understand why the Arts Commission seemed to struggle so much is because very few projects were being completed. I think something like this Community Engagement Commission would give the opportunity for whoever was involved to see the completion of some projects, which then would drive more involvement. And I think, just in my opinion, that's probably where the failure was coming with the Arts Commission. Is with, if you're not seeing the fruits of your labor, if you're trying to put in the time, eventually you run out of steam. So a lot of these sound like really great projects and really great ideas to support. And I think if we could see some of these projects through this commission, then it would just continue to kind of create that inertia to create more involvement, which I think is kind of what we're all looking for.
Agreed.
Then I do, when we were discussing it near the end of the meeting at the CDC, somebody came forward and said, well, you do have was it the Civil Commission? Is that what former council member Evans was just?
You're talking about Civil Service Commission?
Yeah, would they want to be involved with that? Okay.
That's typically
Yes.
dealing with civil service jobs and
Okay.
proper procedures in dealing with those.
Okay, yeah, somebody brought that up and it was kind of like, oh.
You also have the planning commission, which now also serves as your parks commission, which could be another resource. I don't know how, but I mean, that they do exist.
So lots of resources, lots of commissions.
Hopefully at least one here that would see something actually get done, which would be, like you said, would drive that as well. So I think you're absolutely right. Any other discussion? Okay, thank you, Debbie. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, please, go ahead. Oh, does he? Oh, didn't see it. Councilmember Roach, did you have something?
His hand was up earlier, so
It might just be the hand up all the time.
at least it's his hand.
No, sorry, I think that I was left up. I'll take that off.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry,
That's all right. Thanks.
if I can figure out it. Okay, got it.
All right, we will move on to review of council minutes. Councilmember Fullerton.
I emailed some changes. I don't see them quite yet. However, I was informed that sometimes it takes like a week to kind of get it done. Unfortunately, it was for tonight's CDC meeting, so hopefully everybody was able to attend that wanted to attend because we had an early start today. So, but otherwise, everything was good.
Okay, hopefully those will be in the next packet then. Yeah. All right, move on to council open discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Swatman.
Thank you. Do we have I think Councilmember Fullerton, are you regularly attending then on those CFF meetings that they do down at the school? Just wanted
The CFF meeting is going to be this Thursday, and I was planning on attending.
Okay, great. Yeah.
It's from 3 to 4:30.
Yeah, every first Thursday kind of thing.
First
So
Thursday,
you normally try to do that. I don't know if Mr. Davis is available for that or anybody else, but of course, a couple of council members are welcome to attend. So excellent. Thank you for attending those. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
There will be certain times that I can make it.
Yeah, and as you note from the meeting there's a virtual link available too. So worst cases, you can jump in via Zoom if you want to kind of get an idea of what they're doing down there and what the needs are. It's really an excellent place to learn about what all the community social needs are out there.
Yeah, they have a lot of resources that show up and a lot of community outreach programs and, where to find food, where to find clothes for, we have quite a few homeless kids that are in our school district. So to help them find resources, that was essentially what the shampoo drive was for. But yeah, and I do attend virtual a lot of times if I have to work the night before. So that's a nice convenience to be able to do that and not have to drive down to Sumner.
Yep. I had another question, kind of a procedural question. Possibly our attorney can help me out. So sometimes, because I think, and I don't know, because you can't see when staff is email or somebody emails somebody, they would BCC the council or something like that. And then I would email back to the person, trying to figure stuff out or something. And then somebody's like, well, don't email the whole council or something. And I'm like thinking to myself, well, I know there's a case for using BCCs, but probably practically, maybe we shouldn't be at a council legislative level ever using a BCC, because then it creates an issue where you could get some kind of a accidental, what's the,
Ongoing meeting.
So yeah, the reason that that is sometimes used is because if council members are on an email and council members are responding back and it's going to everyone, that is considered a meeting under the Open Public Meetings Act. Because anytime you discuss something that's council business, it's potentially a meeting. It's not done in public as emails are not. It could violate the act. It's also called a serial meeting. So a lot of cities, not just Bonney Lake, does use the BCC, because if the council members are on the BCC line and they hit reply all, they don't reply to that. It doesn't go to the BCC folks.
yeah.
But on the other hand, you don't see who else is getting the email if you're on the BCC.
So I've seen some people then, if we want to, they note in there that the council was BCC'd. I guess that's helpful.
oh, so you'd like them to. And so what I sometimes do is I'll put do not reply all, but I've found a feature in Outlook where you can make an email using the developer app, create a form that doesn't allow reply all. So I don't know if that's something that people can use, because then I would put the council on the two lines sometimes when you get emails from me. If you try to reply all, it won't work because I set it up that way. But certainly I think that John could instruct the staff that if they're putting the council on the BCC line, to include something saying all council members BCC'd to ensure no
Sure,
reply
yeah.
all. Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking, Deputy Mayor?
Excellent. I think that would be helpful, because that way if I respond, because sometimes I do to a lot of the group emails that are to other staff members, then I don't know that the council's, on the list also. So then I get in trouble for emailing everybody.
Well, but it doesn't go to the rest of the
It
council.
doesn't, but if because see, I'll get a note from staff and the staff will copy a bunch of other staff, and then apparently BCC council. And then I'm like responding, because for the council-ish kind of information, but I want the council to know that I responded it to, so that the staff doesn't get 14 other emails from other things. And then somebody screaming that I responded to everybody.
Got it. Yeah, you're saying because you're adding the council to it. Okay. Yeah, that's probably something
It's
we
just
should avoid, but
Kind of a nuance, but
certainly I'm not sure how John would want to deal with that. It's more of
Yeah.
an administration issue than but avoiding the OPMA violations is always the plan.
Exactly. Want to make sure to do things so that's pretty correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I forgot what, I had one, but now I forgot, but I have another one. So at some point, I would like to discuss policies and procedures for coming up with our mayor, should we ever lose another mayor. Please don't leave. So anyway, so I think that is important that we have that put into our policies, our handbook, so that we have an actual procedure. I personally feel like it needs to be an elected official, so I don't think it's wise to just bring somebody off the street and say, hey, friend, you want to come be my mayor? That's just awesome. So I feel like it needs to be somebody, a council member. And essentially the RCWs that I brought up, the fact that it didn't say, hey, go interview for public, the public tells me that the intent of the law or the RCW was that it could be a council member, it could be the deputy mayor, which was the suggestion that whoever is the deputy mayor should be automatically put into the mayor position because that would be the least disruptive to the council. And had we done that, we would have saved ourselves about 3 weeks, 4 weeks time of interview processes, as well as been able to do our scheduled workshop, which caused a lot of problems to not, especially we had 2 new council members who should have had the opportunity to go through a workshop and kind of ask questions on, just the agenda alone. I spent time with a couple of the new council members explaining them how to read through the agenda, how to find, okay, well, we're on page 5 now, we're on page 6 now. I mean, I didn't know that, and council member Watson had kind of talked me through that as we were going through the meeting. So it would have been nice for me to have a workshop. And I just feel like that taking the deputy mayor and putting him in the position that he was already doing as mayor pro tem at the time would have just been the least disruptive, the most, I can't think of a word, but I just think that that would have been the best way to do it. So that's just my thoughts on how I think that we need to fill the vacancy on a mayor position. And then, we could have basically filled Deputy Mayor Carter's at the time seat, his vacant seat, and done the regular procedure, which was the least disruptive thing to do because we already had a procedure to get a new council member, to appoint a new council member. So I think it's very important that that should be one of the first things on one of our workshops or a council meeting if we need to vote in our policies and procedures, but just something that's going to help eliminate the drama, I guess, that we had during the the mayor situation. So
I think when we chatted about that before too, at the full council level, and I think it was my impression I was waiting for some council to draft something up that, for instance, you could start through the finance committee since that's where the personnel issues start. But we're waiting proposals on that because some of the staff was like, "Oh, do you want us to do that?" And I was like, "Well, I really don't want staff to spend a lot of time doing that." And then the council look at it and say, "Well, this doesn't work."
So we should write up a procedure and
Yeah,
then
definitely,
bring
yeah.
where, if I wrote up a procedure, then where would I bring that to,
Well,
like a
unless-
workshop so that we can all
Unless
work
unless
through
you
it,
object,
or-
I think we'd start at the finance committee because that's where the personnel issues start. And then once we get through the finance committee with it, then we can bring it to the full council for consideration.
Okay,
Yeah, easy enough, right?
Yeah.
I thought that's what the flow was that we were talking about.
I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
like, if we were actually talking
Mm.
about mayor, because I kind of
Well, there's both,
trying
right?
to
Because there's-
failing to understand how
Both.
mayor, I guess because they are on payroll, so they would have so why would we go to the finance committee versus the CDC or the public safety or whatever,
Finance
right?
usually handles a lot of the personnel issues, but either way, if you wanted
Personnel,
to,
got
if you'd rather for it to come down to the full council first, then that's fine. But, I would think that there's some things, rough edges usually go through the committee somewhere first, but it can come to the full council too. If we had proposals for that, it'd be fine. We need to, I would suggest do the city council kind of go through that one at the same time also. Because there
Yeah.
are some issues with the city council stuff that we discovered last time with, doing the interviews and how you kind of can or can't do that in the public and individually and stuff like that. It was pretty clunky.
Yeah, I didn't agree with allowing everybody to stay, with the
Sure, yeah,
excuse
yeah,
of
yeah.
the cell phone
Yeah.
issue. I think most adults wouldn't be like, hey, they just asked this question. I
Sure.
personally wouldn't do that if my husband was in an interview. I wouldn't be like, okay, here's your next question,
Well,
but if
Sure.
you,
Yeah.
so I think it would have been fine, but it was difficult. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if we were not doing interviews, then for mayor, then it would have been basically a council vote. And we would be appointing the new mayor. So we wouldn't have to go through oh, by the way, the mayor, the deputy mayor and council member who's interviewing for the mayor position get to stay in the room. Therefore, we're going to let everybody stay in the room. But if we were just simply doing a procedure, which is what we're here for, is to do a parliamentary procedure where we're nominating and then taking a vote, just
Sure,
like we
yeah.
do for deputy mayor.
Yep.
We nominated you and then we all voted to put you into the deputy mayor seat. So that is the least disruptive. It allows the process to move forward and we don't have to have anybody leave the room. There was a point when council member Evans was wanting to continue to be deputy mayor, and then deputy mayor at the time, or council member Carter were both nominated. And so we asked some questions and we decided as a council who would proceed and who was going to be appointed to the deputy mayor position. And the same process can happen with the mayor.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel personally, and based off of the RCWs and the intent of the law,
Sure.
that interviewing people off the street was not placed in that RCW for a reason, because the intent was that it should be, that it could be the deputy mayor, should be the deputy mayor, but if there was council members who objected, then we could take up nominations and pick somebody else.
Sure. Yeah, and you can write all that up, because we have kind of a structured procedure a little bit now. We
Mhm.
change it up, right? And, get it down to the council and we can, as a full council, can deal with it, right?
And that would have also eliminated the awkward, tiebreaker and everything else, and the drama.
Oh, there's always going to be a lot of drama and lots of issues with lots of that
Well,
stuff.
even when we had the two deputy mayors at the time, I don't feel that there was any drama involved. We listened to what
Okay.
Council Member Evans had to say. We listened to what Council Member Carter had to say, and we decided as a council, and we took a vote. It was 5-2, I think, something like that. I don't know, but anyway, I'm just saying, I mean, I didn't think
Yeah.
that was drama. Did you feel drama? I didn't feel any drama.
No, that was
So.
pretty drama less. So, okay, I think that's good.
Okay, so I will
Finance.
try to figure out a way to write up a procedure for that, and then we can,
Sure, yeah,
I'll bring it
definitely.
to
Yeah.
Finance Committee.
If that works for you best, that's fine. Yeah, whatever you like.
I've never written a policy, so.
Well, you can take what we
is there
have.
Anybody here that I can
yeah.
call to help me with that?
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? I attended PSRC last Thursday. I won't go into detail on that meeting because it was long.
Puget Sound Regional.
Puget Sound Regional Council. Yeah, so I was in Seattle.
Okay, the big one. Yeah.
The one PCRC, basically.
Yeah,
is
they're good,
going
yeah.
to whatnot. Their big thing for the future is dealing with traffic safety, mostly, I think, engineering type stuff and grants toward that type of thing. So I just want council to be aware of that. That seems to be where their push is. Councilmember Fullerton.
That was my other one. You just brought it up.
Oh, okay.
Since we have Council Member Roach here tonight. So the PCRC, we have not had any representation since January. So, and I'm realizing after speaking with the mayor and then also another mayor from another city, how the PCRC actually kind of works hand in hand with the CDC. So as the chair, I was going to ask if possibly I could be the representative for the PCRC, since we haven't had any representation. And I got an email. I think that I don't know if they're going to cancel it for this month because of the AWC, or they're going to maybe change the date. So I'll hear from them shortly, I guess. But so Councilmember Roach, I was just wondering if that was a possibility, if you would consider allowing me to, I guess, chair that or sit in on the PCRC.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I apologize for the other ones. I don't recall ever receiving an invite to the previous meetings. I don't know if it's not coming to my email or what there. But with my job change schedule, I'm not going to be able to attend those meetings anyway. So I think it's probably a good idea to make that change and do it tonight.
Okay, yeah, it's usually the third Thursday of every month at 6 o'clock, and I used to go virtually anyway, so that would be great. And then we can still keep Councilmember Hubler on as an alternate if she still wants to do that. But I'm guessing maybe do we need an appointment? I mean, we usually like kind of vote on it, or do we?
You need a motion.
So
And
we
it would be a motion to appoint Councilmember Fullerton as the City of Bonnie Lake representative to PCRC.
can we do a motion at a workshop since or do we have on our agenda?
You can, we should take comment either before or after if anyone has any on it.
Is it time sensitive? We could just do it at the next meeting.
You can also stick it on consent for next meeting, just
Okay.
as a motion on consent with the council's approval or concurrence tonight.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Debbie, you got that?
So then I guess after that gets approved, then we would make sure that I'm getting the emails from PCRC, which I still get, but I'd like them to know that I'm going to be, I don't know if it's a representative or a chair or what it's considered.
Yeah, if
for
you
the
know when the
committee.
next one, I would definitely, yeah, I think Mr. Sullivan can probably make sure that, right?
Yeah.
You said on PCRC. Oh, okay. There's somebody we need to let know, basically. So-
Yeah, once the council passes the motion next week at the council, I'll get a hold of Debbie as soon as the minutes are done and get all that sent off to them. And I'll even get a copy of the agenda from that night and let them know, and we'll get it over as fast as we can to them.
Am I just considered a representative?
Yeah, you would.
I didn't know what it was called.
There's a representative and an alternate, and so you would replace Councilmember Roach as the representative from the City of Bonnie Lake for the PCRC.
And then the other thing I had was on the 29th, I met with Mr. Knoll. I was trying to still work something out where a couple of us could meet up with him, and it just hasn't worked out yet. But I did meet with him. He's the Anderson property that they were potentially interested in. They are keeping it a pretty high price, and so he's no longer interested in that piece of property at that price, I guess is how I would say it. The Reed property is still what he's considering, either, I think mostly either in a lease or a purchase. For the rates and whatnot, I think it would still be best to move forward with purchasing it out of the water fund so that the rates are taken care of, and then we can move forward with either a lease or a purchase with Mr. Knoll, or anyone else who may be interested in that piece of property or whatnot. But I just wanted to put that out to council so you're aware of where that's currently at. Okay. Any other discussion?
No, I'm just going to email Councilmember Fullerton
Okay. Very good.
and not BCC anybody.
Right on. All right. Not seeing any other discussion, we'll then move on to our one discussion item. Madam Clerk. I can read it.
Motion.
4-58 motion, M 24-58, a motion. Okay, sorry, this discussion item only for AB 2458, motion 24-58, M 24-58. After reviewing the council policies and procedures, there were edits needed for grammar and formatting. Staff recommended removing all committee full issues from council meeting agendas and have all full issues fall under full council issues to help with the understanding where to list items. There has been some confusion on where items got placed. The change will not affect anything except the title it falls under on the agenda.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Small.
Yeah, there was one of the note, because we have things going through committees, and when they get signed off by the committee, then there was some confusion at times, sometimes on where to put them when they went to the full council. So if they come out of any of the committee, which almost everything we do has, does, it either goes to consent agenda or it goes to a full council issue. You can tell by the council agenda bills where it came from and the different committee or committees that it went through. This just makes it easier for staff to track things in there. It was a request from staff to make it straightforward and just be either on the consent agenda or on a full council agenda item. That's the change.
As a committee chair, then are there times where I can send it to another committee?
Yep.
Is that on here also?
It is. It's on the council agenda bill form where you can forward it to.
Okay, so return to committee or
Yep.
commissioner board.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can say, hey, it looks like we need the police input on this. We need to go over to public safety with this one or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just makes it easier for staff. We're trying to make sure that as things change, like they did with the electronic agendas, different things come up, different requirements come up, that staff says, hey, can we do this? And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
So now we're just gonna do consent agenda, and we're getting rid of committee full issues and count.
No, there will be the council full issues and consent.
Council full issues and consent agenda, but no committee full issues.
Correct,
We'll just
because they're
cross
all
that
in the
out.
same there.
Yeah.
Doesn't-
This makes it a little more straightforward.
Because if they went through multiple committees, then it's kind of like, which committee?
Yeah, well, we've had that lately too. A lot of different committees putting things on their little consent agenda, so it's better, or full issue. So I think, yeah, this is more straightforward and less boxes to X.
Exactly.
Councilmember McClimans, did you have something?
Yeah, on page 15 to 34, we're changing the procedure. We're making packets available.
Right.
So what exactly does it mean, procedure available for public to view, the complete packet mean?
Instead of printing out a bunch of agendas and wasting a bunch of paper, what we do is we have a QR code that we update with the most latest agenda, and we have that outside, and also I believe it's on the table, that if someone walks in, they can scan the QR code and they see the agenda. There will always be a full packet available for review, but instead of printing out 20 copies of just this, just the single 2-page agenda, they can just use a QR scanner.
Sweet, thank you. Likewise, to be consistent, on page 17 of 34, I believe flag salute should be changed to Pledge of Allegiance.
Where now?
Yep.
Page 17, so page 54 of the budget.
And then, just to be sure, on page 24, 34, there's a change bar reflecting formatting only on the paragraph for right above public hearing process. That is basically just a format change. I just wanted to validate it because
Doesn't have any notes.
it has a change bar, but there's no note. I don't know how you got the tool to do that.
It got up to the upper one, yeah. It shows up above it, because it's on the section.
So that formatted indent, the hanging indent format statement is for A through
I guess,
B,
I don't know
right?
why.
That's what I was assuming.
That's what I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something, because I was like, I'm gonna assume that, and I thought, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. Because that occurs multiple times
Yeah,
in
it
the
does,
document.
yeah, that's weird, huh? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's
Well,
all I have.
there's once. Okay.
Any other discussion?
One more thing about the topic, Councilmember Fulton was talking about. I believe modern interview, a panel interview approach is probably a better format for modern interviewing because all the candidates, there is no, it provides an opportunity for no candidates to have an unfair advantage over the other. We just have to set up some rules. So there are multiple links to that, how to do a panel-based interview, right?
So panel-based is technically what we did, having everybody interview.
Now you
But-
have all the candidates sit
Oh.
together and you interview them as
Oh, at the same time?
time.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to read that.
What a pain.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion?
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. Yes. All right, seeing no other discussion, no items of business, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
That is weird. I didn't notice that where it only does it on that one. Like,
Yeah, there's a bunch of
usually
things like
it's-
that.